We turn now to the war in Gaza, where Israel announced it this morning that the bodies of 3 hostages abducted from the Nova Music Festival on October 7th have been recovered. Their remains were found in a tunnel in Gaza overnight and have been returned to Israel, among them 22-year-old Shani Luke. Meanwhile, in northern Gaza, one of the war's most intense battles is underway in the northern city of Jabalia. Hamas has regrouped there after Israeli troops left the area after previously gaining operational control. Footage shows face-to-face fighting in the city's streets while Israel is ramping up air and artillery strikes. The IDF is now trying to evacuate 150,000 civilians because fighting there has become so volatile. Moving south, Israel says it plans to deploy more troops for its offensive in Rafah, Hamas's last stronghold in Gaza. Israel's foreign minister says troops have already destroyed multiple Hamas tunnels and a training facility there. Last week, Biden threatened to withhold weapons from Israel if they move forward with a full-scale invasion of Rafah. Despite the ultimatum, Biden is moving forward with a new billion-dollar arms sale this week. Yet, the White House paused the shipment of 2,000-pound bombs, saying they don't think they should be used in the densely populated area of Rafah. And in northern Israel, the IDF says Hezbollah launched 75 rockets at Israel just today. Israel's aerial defense system was reportedly able to intercept dozens of them. Joining me now is foreign policy expert Harley Littman, who is on the ground in Israel right now and headed to Gaza. Harley, thanks for joining us. I know it's late there.
That's okay. My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about Israel, the conflict in the Middle East, but we're not there living and breathing the reality of it all. So I'm glad we get to talk to you about it today. I understand you met with the Speaker of Parliament. What came out of that meeting?
Well, one is the gratitude of support from the United States, but also deep concern that the policy of the United States by putting pressure on Israel not to go into Rafah is undermining peace. Because why should Hamas negotiate with Israel, free the hostages, and end the conflict if the United States is doing its job for them? Mm-hmm. The United States is putting pressure on Israel not to go into Rafah. But Rafah is their stronghold. They have 4 battalions there. The hostages are there. And if Israel doesn't take Rafah, they're going to lose the war. Hamas will emerge out of this, plant their flag, and say, we survived against the largest military power in the Middle East. We're still here. And they're going to launch more attacks on Israel, and they publicly said that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why that's happening. The White House even threatened to withhold military aid if Israel moves forward with a full-blown invasion of Rafah. Do you get the sense that Israel is deterred by Biden's threats?
Well, it is a concern, but Israel has to defend itself. Every nation has the right to defend its own people. Israel was attacked by Hamas and slaughtered people. You pointed out a moment ago, they found the 3 bodies. The 2 women that were identified were repeatedly and brutally raped many times over. They were brought into Gaza. They were brutalized. And the world needs to know that a mini Holocaust took place in Israel when Hamas attacked. And I would suggest to you that in some ways it were even worse than the Nazis, because the Nazis tried to hide their crimes. And also their goal was to kill as many Jews as possible, as quickly as possible. Hamas doesn't hide their crimes. They had GoPro vision goggles to record it. They were proud of it. And their goal was to torture people as long as possible before they killed them. So this is a unique evil that the world has never seen before. And Israel is fighting a war of civilization to defend our way of life. Israel is the frontier. It's the little Satan in the eyes of radical Islam, and America is the big Satan. And they say they're coming after America next.
Of course, that's our biggest fear. And I'd like our viewers to get a sense of the general sentiment there in Israel. We don't have close personal ties there, so what are you seeing? We have all these anti-Israel protests going on here in the States. Campuses have descended into really chaos. What's the general attitude there among Israelis? What do they think of these protests?
They're in shock with disbelief by the lack of compassion and empathy of the demonstrators. They pulled down pictures of the hostages. How do you pull down a picture of a 6-year-old child or an 82-year-old grandmother? They were in their beds. They weren't doing anything. So this really tells you how how sinister and menacing these protesters are. They also don't have the facts. You know, they're saying that there is genocide. Well, the head of, in West Point, the department that deals with strategy and fighting guerrilla warfare in urban areas, says that the ratio in normal warfare in urban areas of combatants to civilians is 1-9. One combatant is killed, 9 civilians are either injured or killed. We now know the UN revised their numbers of deaths in Gaza, and now it's around 20,000 people died in Gaza. And Israel, of the 20,000, about 14,000 are Hamas fighters. So Israel's ratio is more like 1-2. So they are fighting this war with tremendous attention to not killing innocent civilians. So there's a huge distortion of information going on out there. And Israelis are just beside themselves trying to understand where this hatred and anti-Semitism is coming from.
Yeah, you paint a clear picture when you put the numbers into perspective like that. I understand you're also meeting with Bezalel Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, two of the most powerful officials in the Israeli government. What are you planning on discussing with them?
Well, I want to understand how we could help Israel to defeat the enemy of the United States and Israel and civilization at large, and what we could do to strengthen U.S.-Israeli relations, and how do we solve this problem once and for all. And I think what I'm hearing now is the way to solve this problem is, and you can have closure. A lot of people say there's always fighting in the Middle East, they'll fight forever. It's not true. You have resolution when you utterly and totally defeat your enemy. And the best example is World War II. Germany and Japan were completely defeated and they surrendered. And it was resolved. 80 years later, neither Germany or Japan have any appetite for war. Why? Because again, they were completely defeated and they surrendered. So Israel needs to do that to Hamas. And then once they're defeated and they surrender, then you could talk about a Marshall Plan. Then you could talk about helping Gaza to become a Dubai or a Singapore. But first, you need military victory. Victory is the only way to peace.
Yeah.
And that's what Israel needs to do. But they're being undermined by the Biden administration.
Such a frustrating situation. Harley Littman, foreign policy expert, live in Israel. Keep us posted. Thank you for that update.
I will. Thank you.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OANN Live. OANN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OANN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OANN Live and stay informed.